Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to probably the most shocking Toronto Raptors update since the morning we traded for Kawhi Leonard. I do not take that lightly. I've been known to be hyperbolic. I'm aware to, my fandom as a Raptors fan. I'm aware to how I feel about the team and overzealous I can be and all this stuff. This is not a hyperbole. This is not any... I wish this was a trick. I wish Shams, it was the NBA Sentinel. I wish I was reacting to that here today. The Toronto Raptors just fired a man that brought us an NBA championship. I don't care if you aren't happy with some of the moves he made. I don't care if you're not happy with some of the draft picks that were made, because you know what? He didn't make those draft picks. It was all Bobby Webster. This was before the NBA draft. We have some details coming out about the specifics in terms of this firing, in terms of what the Toronto Raptors' plans are next. And while I'm not going to be a doomer out here on this stream, I'm not going to come out here and say the team is cooked and we're all going to be, Edward Rogers about to tank away this entire franchise's future. Because we have some details. It seems like there was at least more of a plan in place than what was indicated this morning by these couple of Shams tweets. So we'll break all that down. But this is a bad day from Toronto Raptors history. I've been roasted. I've been called a Masai Ujiri glazer out there on Twitter, especially with the draft picks, especially with the selections and all this type of stuff. Some of the questionable reports and motives and moves that the Raptors have been in talks with over the past month are now put in a different light, in a different context, in a different sort of frame of reference, now with all of these updates. So we have a lot of stuff to sink our teeth into on this stream. Appreciate all 400 of you guys tuned into here. Let's jump straight into it. Because Shams dropped the bombshell today. Masai Ujiri is out as chairman and president of the Toronto Raptors. Masai Ujiri is out as president of the Toronto Raptors. So, went on to say, MLSE and Masai Ujiri have decided to part ways as Ujiri was entering the final year of his contract. So, that's the report. That's where it's coming from, so you know it's not, I'm not coming out here and spewing some stuff. Shams came out and revealed that Masai Ujiri has been fired as parted ways with the Toronto Raptors and MLSE. So, first things first, what's the context here? Before we talk about the Raptors' plans and the news that has come out regarding the Toronto Raptors' plans, where we go from here, first I want to thank Masai Ujiri. This man, again, the last couple years have been tough with the tanks and all that, but the Raptors, we'll talk about the lows first, even with the losing, even with the inability for the lottery balls to fall the right way, and we couldn't capture a flag over this season, the Toronto Raptors are set up in a perfect way moving forward. We have a ton of young depth. We have a ton of young guys. I'm not sure how good we're going to be immediately next year, but the Raptors have a ton of young, promising assets, all of our draft picks, a deep bench here now at this point. The Raptors are in a really, really nice spot as constructed by Masai Ujiri. Yes, it took a lot of losing to get us in that construction. Yes, there were some shaky trades and weird decisions made in terms of getting us to that point. But regardless, the Toronto Raptors are in a really, really good spot here right now. But that's not Masai Ujiri's legacy with the Toronto Raptors. It could be. If Bobby Webster, of course, carries the mantle and brings us another championship, that's the goal, that's the plan. Masai Ujiri's legacy is going to be taking a team, a franchise, an organization that was utterly cooked. Utterly cooked. Bargnani's on the roster with an untradeable contract. We're running Rudy Gay out there in lineups, trading Eddie D and Jose Calderon for Eddie D. All of that type of stuff. And Masai immediately, right from the jump, turns that cooked organization, that cooked team, into a playoff team. Trading Barrett to the New York Knicks. Getting back Novak and a pick that became Jakob Poeltl. Making a deal for Rudy Gay to acquire Gravis Vasquez, Patrick Patterson, Chuck Hayes, and John Salmons. And as infuriating as John Salmons was to watch, Dwayne Casey play him out there in playoff minutes, this Raptors team became a top 4 seed. And for nearly a decade, led by Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and a roster that wasn't supposed to work, this team became one of the most consistent, one of the top performing teams in the Eastern Conference for essentially the entire 2010s, while Masai Ujiri was there. That group reached its ceiling. It reached its cap. And Masai Ujiri made the absolute impossible decision of trading away DeMar DeRozan for a guy, Kawhi Leonard, that, didn't want to be here. He didn't want to come to Canada. He wanted to play in LA. He made that tough call. He made that tough decision. A more underrated tough decision that year. He traded for Marc Gasol for Jonas Valanciunas. And he brought us a championship. He brought us a championship here in Toronto. He said we were going to win again. And we fired him. And that is absolutely absurd. Edward Rogers. So, here's the details, because I know people are probably wondering. This is catching a lot of people by surprise. What just happened with this Toronto Raptors organization? And I see a lot of people in the chat. We're going to be getting back and forth. But we'll dive into the details here right now in terms of what is going on with the actual truth behind this firing. The Toronto Raptors ownership completely changed officially this season as Edward Rogers came into the mix as essentially the sport czar in Toronto. He controls the stake out there in MLSE. Bell, they had their shares all bought out. Larry Tannerbaum's influence was diminished. And now the man that really has had the Blue Jays in an interesting spot for nearly a decade, he is running the show now for the Toronto Raptors. And back in 2021, now people said I was a doomer. People said, Ben, you're overreacting. Nothing's going to happen, whatever. I feared this midway through this season. I feared it. I made videos. I talked about it. Edward Rogers being the owner, despite the absolutely insane phone bill prices across Canada. We have one of the most expensive phone bill plans in all of the developed world. Despite Rogers making money hand over fist. He's cheap. And he didn't want to pay Masai Ujiri after he brought us a championship. Now, I know there's going to be some people in the chat. I know there's going to be some people, the draft picks are stupid. The trading for Jakob was stupid. Whatever. People are going to make those arguments. And I'm not saying you're an idiot or anything like that making those takes. I disagree. But Masai hasn't been perfect over the past few seasons. No one can argue that. Masai Ujiri was basically perfect when he was up for his next contract years ago. He basically was. In terms of moves, the Bruno Caboclo was a misstep. The DeMarre Carroll ended up being a misfire, but a lot of that had to do with injuries. Up until 2020, Masai Ujiri was on the money with pretty well every single decision he made. And Edward Rogers didn't want to pay him. He didn't want to pay him. So now we're at a point where, again, you're not going to have a 100% batting average over the course of your entire career. You're not going to have it. It's just the reality. A couple missteps, a couple of this. Edward Rogers jumped at the first chance he could to get rid of Masai Ujiri because he's well paid. He's expensive. You have a top 5 front office executive in your organization, the NBA. I don't think that's arguable. I think there's a solid argument there for top 3 for Masai Ujiri if you look at the complete body of work. Okay? But I'm saying it's inarguable. Masai Ujiri is a top 5 executive out there in the NBA. You have one of these guys, they're going to be expensive. When Masai Ujiri's contract was up last time, it wasn't just every single other NBA team. The Knicks wanted him. The Hawks want him. I wouldn't be shocked if the Atlanta Hawks fire their GM and whatever and do that. And the Hawks have been cooking as of late. The Hawks have been absolutely cooking as of late. So, he's expensive. That is what it is. At the first chance, earlier than the first chance, his contract's not even up. As Shams broke down, as Shams illustrated this report, there's a year left on his deal. Literally the first chance possible. Despite Masai playing coy out there in the media and the markets and stuff, saying, hey, no, the relationship with ownership is good. Everything is fine. Everything is swell. Everything is great. The first opportunity, Masai Ujiri's thrown out. He's thrown out. And it makes absolutely 0 sense, the timing. Because we knew this was a possibility. And Blake Murphy essentially put this out as well. Well, we made videos on the channel as well. It was always a possibility of 1 year left and ownership and all that type of stuff. The timing doesn't make any sense. MJAD is saying, change your last name. I got to become more rich than Edward Rogers. I got to become more rich than Edward Rogers so I can buy this team. They can keep it named the Rogers Center and stuff. Digest Media will be bigger than Rogers Communications, and I can buy the Toronto Raptors so we don't have stupid decisions like this. I'm not saying that I'll be, I know. I'm a homer. I am biased. I objectively would be a bad general manager out there in the NBA. I've come to terms with that for years. It's why I don't sports bet. I am an open homer. I just get enamored with my team. I fall in love with it, and it affects the rationality of my takes. I'm open about it. It's how I am as a sports fan. It's how I enjoy sports. If we're treating sports like, if we're treating it like math, as a computer science, as a software engineer, I'm not trying to have my sports done like a math equation and stuff. I fall in love with players. You watch them, you fall in love with the guys, and you got to be a little bit biased. If you're not doing that, I don't think you're a real sports fan. But I digress. I'd be a bad GM. I think I'd be a good owner, though. I wouldn't try to meddle. I wouldn't come in and fire Masai Ujiri. Edward Rogers. Okay? So, Edward Rogers comes in and fires Masai Ujiri at the first chance he gets. The first chance. Not being able to get a habit because it was Larry Tannenbaum, the guy that had the tight relationship with Masai Ujiri. It was Larry Tannenbaum that essentially made sure Masai Ujiri got paid on his last contract. Okay? That's what happened. And when Toshi, there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of weird underhanded comments. There was a lot of weird innuendos by some of the comments made by Edward Rogers back in the day. So, it wasn't a sweet relationship. Now, the contract happened. Both people came out publicly, were mature about it, and it seemed like, okay, things will be fine. It'll be a bit tumultuous. It'll be a bit whatever. Then this happens. Edward Rogers, as soon as he gets that power, he's reshaping the team in his vision. He wanted Bobby Webster to run the show back then. He was the orchestrator behind the Kawhi Leonard trade. Masai Ujiri obviously greenlit it, made that final call, but apparently a lot of the negotiation was done by Bobby Webster, landing Kawhi Leonard. It was really the thing that put Bobby Webster out there on the map for the Toronto Raptors. Okay? So, the Toronto Raptors now have a really interesting spot to be. Now, I did a whole video. And Marcel of Mavericks Digest, we're going to get into that. Because that really reshapes, reframes how we're looking at this entire offseason. Okay? So, what's next? Because firstly, Edward Rogers loves Bobby Webster. He loves Bobby Webster. So, for as concerning as it is that Masai Ujiri's gone, we have a bit of a tyrant as an owner. We'll talk about the roster construction. What's going to happen with this team? Okay? Okay? Even with Edward Rogers coming in here. The saving grace to this is Bobby Webster is still the GM of the Toronto Raptors. I'm not sure if he's going to get a title change. I don't know if it's going to be a difference. But Bobby Webster is still managing the Toronto Raptors. And this is where I'm looking at the chat, okay? I see About Time saying CMB may have been the final straw. I see some people saying, hey, the casuals out there calling for Masai's head after this NBA draft, that's the reason Edward Rogers, is the final straw in terms of the Raptors making the moves. That was not the case. There's limited reporting coming out on this. There's going to be more and more details coming out in terms of what's happening here right now. Masai Ujiri was not involved in the draft day decisions this year. Or at least he didn't lead the show. So, it's not a report, it's this. It is a report. Brett Siegel came out and confirmed Bobby Webster led the Toronto Raptors draft efforts this week. Sources told Clutch Points. A decision to part ways with Masai Ujiri was not an influence of the NBA draft. So, people saying, hey, the Malawatch deal was an L. Edward Rogers didn't want CMB. CMB's traded, Shed's traded, all these guys. Elijah Martin was the last straw, all that type of stuff. It's not like irrational to think that. But it's not what happened. It's not what happened. So the people that weren't happy with these picks blame Bobby Webster. Now, I think these picks were good. I think these picks were pretty solid. But for all the people that were shocked the Toronto Raptors did not draft Common Malawatch because that screams to be a pick that would have been made by Masai Ujiri, we were probably right. If Masai was leading the show, if Masai was really the guy running this stuff, Common Malawatch would probably be a Toronto Raptor. There were reports about a month ago that Common Malawatch had a promise from the Toronto Raptors. We covered that on the channel. If he fell to number 9, he'd be drafted by the Toronto Raptors. And we didn't draft him. We did draft him. That was really surprising. I don't think it was wrong. It might have been wrong. But I'm not going to sit here and judge this right away. I think CMB is really good. Colin Murray Boyles is really good at basketball. Watching his tape, watching everything that's come out on Colin Murray Boyles, I think that was a solid draft pick. So do not get me wrong. But people wanting to blame Masai Ujiri out there with this pick, now I'm sure a lot of the decision making, I'm sure a lot of, the scouting, like the reports that are done out through the entire year. Masai Ujiri, without a doubt, had influence on this. It's irrational to believe that that wasn't the case. Okay? This report coming out and saying, oh, this, that, whatever. It's irrational to say Masai Ujiri had no hand in this. The draft picks. But he didn't lead it. This wasn't something that was an impulse decision, which is good. Okay? As much as we all hate this, as much as Masai Ujiri leaving is going to be bad for the future, at least it wasn't hey, Masai Ujiri come into one of the most important drafts in Toronto Raptors history, just given the timelines matching up, just given the pick that we had, given the inflection point we're at with this organization. It's a good thing that we didn't come out and essentially fire him right away. Make that decision. Whew. It's bold, though. It's bold. 1 year left on the deal. It is bold. And this sheds some light into a lot of what's been going on this offseason. Because the reports have come out. The Raptors have always been interested in landing big-name players. Have always been interested in making big moves and making big swings and turning this team into a competitive squad and all of those types of things. But the truth is, given the current state of the Toronto Raptors, and yes, I think we are going to be a lot better next season. I don't think we are going to be overtly tanking next year. But trading away a lot of assets, draft picks, this, that, and whatnot, for a guy like Kevin Durant, for the big fish, all of the reports that's coming out, all of this different stuff, it felt a bit out of character for Masai Ujiri. It felt a bit out of character for Masai Ujiri. The reported offerings, some of the way we reacted, it felt rushed. It felt like we should see what we have. And it's why I've been pretty adamant on not trading RJ Barrett. Again, you get a star, that's fine. That's fine. Okay? You get a star, that's fine. But, if we rush into a deal for Domantas Sabonis or something, it doesn't make any sense for this organization. So the fact that there's a bunch of discourse, even like a Derek White, like trading a bunch of assets for Derek White doesn't really make sense. I agree. We are not tanking this year, but it felt like things were moving a little bit too fast in terms of things that were happening. Probably the Brandon Ingram trade. Now, I think the Brandon Ingram trade was an opportunity that you couldn't pass up. I think it was a good move. I think it was a smart move and all of that type of stuff. But it felt rushed. And now, the direction of this Toronto Raptors team in the offseason, we are going to have to see what's playing out. Because the Raptors were very, very aggressive over this entire summer, over this entire offseason, since the Raptors have been out. The Raptors have been very, very aggressive. And it makes sense as to why. Because Masai Ujiri's job is on the line. I mean, if we trade for Kevin Durant, he doesn't get fired, I'd imagine. Right? That's kind of what's going on. Okay? This just screams to me it's a cost-cutting move. We don't want to pay Masai Ujiri on his next contract. That's really what this comes down to. And Keith Pelly and all these guys, the new ownership out there at MLC, they've talked a big game about the Raptors, about all these squads being better, trying to win, trying to be in a position where this team is going to get this. And we end up making a cost-cutting move of one of the most valuable assets that we have in this organization. I don't care the hate. I don't care the what's it called. Masai Ujiri is one of the most valuable assets in our organization. Hell, we could have traded Masai. If Doc Rivers could get traded from the Celtics to go to the LA Clippers, we could have got 2 first-round picks from the Atlanta Hawks to send him there. We could have sent him to the Knicks, and they would have dropped our lawsuit. We could have got something for Masai. I mean, Edward Rogers gets on the phone, starts negotiating and stuff like that. Like, oh my God. And Ross Atkins is still running the Toronto Blue Jays. What's going on here? It's baffling. It is baffling. This is what actually went down. So, where does this team go from here? Because Bobby Webster's led the rebuild. What do we know about Bobby Webster? We know Bobby Webster was the architect of the Kawhi Leonard trade. He does a lot of the negotiations. He does a lot of this stuff in terms of making big swings, making big stuff. But one thing I do want to bring up, one thing I do need to talk about, okay? I tweeted this literally right before anything that just went down, okay? I tweeted this right before. But Shams has been doubling. He has been tripling down on his reporting. And a lot of people shot down earlier in the summer. Shams has been doubling and tripling down on one guy that is extremely, extremely important in the history of Toronto Raptors. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Raptors Digest on Twitter right now. 800 people in here. Follow us on Twitter if you don't want to miss a single thing going on with this Raptors team, even though I cover it all on YouTube too. Shams dropped this morning before dropping the Masai Ujiri bombshell. Giannis is closely observing what the Bucks draft, observing the Milwaukee Bucks draft here tonight, and then free agency next week. I'll repeat. Giannis is closely observing what the Bucks draft here tonight, and then free agency next week. Now, Giannis watch was a big moment, was a big thing out there in Toronto Raptors history. Giannis watch has been a big, big thing over the course of Toronto Raptors history. And there's one specific thing as to why, okay? There's one specific reason as to why Giannis watch is linked to the Torontos. It's Giannis' relationship with Masai Ujiri. And if this summer is the summer, after nearly a decade of wanting Giannis on the Toronto Raptors, if this is the summer that Giannis Antetokounmpo becomes available, if this is the summer that he leaves the Milwaukee Bucks, and then Edward Rogers has the audacity, has the gall to come out here and fire Masai Ujiri right before we have the opportunity to land Giannis Antetokounmpo, sickening. Sickening. Now, I'm not going to say Bobby Webster won't do his full push, won't do his full tilt pursuit of landing a Giannis. Don't get me wrong. I think we are in fully capable hands with Bobby Webster, assuming there's no meddling, assuming there's no this, okay? But if Giannis gets traded to the Brooklyn Nets or something stupid like this offseason, that will be the most generational, the most absurd, the most idiotic trade, like move, decision out there at this point in NBA history. Cooked. Is Bobby out? I'm seeing the chat. The first thing that I want to say, ask, yes or no, do you agree with this decision by Rogers? Not me. I'm not related to Edward Rogers, despite the fact I also own a media company. It's not like some long-lost relative. I'm not related to him at all. But yes or no, spam it in the chat here right now about whether or not the Toronto Raptors should have done this. Should have done this. As I deliver some breaking news, as I add it here, I want to see what the chat has to say. Okay? I want to see the chat has to say about some of the stuff that's what's going on. Okay. Let's see. Lots of no's. There's a few yeses in here. But we do have an update. For this team. Okay? It's official. I assumed it was official just given this report that came out from let's see. Let's get this correct. Let's get this organized. But we have some breaking news, folks. This is a very fluid situation. As you guys know, this is a very fluid situation. The situation is fluid. Okay? We have some news. I'm pressing the wrong buttons. We have some breaking news. I'm teasing everyone. Coming from Michael Grange. My understanding is General Manager Bobby Webster has reached an extension with the Toronto Raptors in the weeks before Ujiri leaving the club was announced today. The rest of the management team has already gotten extensions prior to the NBA Combine in May. So this is not an overhaul. Folks. This is not a official, hey, we're tearing this down and we're going to bring in Joe Dumars or something. We're going to come out here and just bring in someone silly out there at this point. Okay? This is not some complete overhaul from this organization. So that's at least a W. Okay? This was in the works. This is planned. This is what's happening. Okay? W or L in the chat here right now. W or L in the chat. Are you happy with this move? Okay? Are you happy with this move with Bobby Webster coming in? Not the Masai Ujiri firing, but Bobby Webster getting extended. Yes or no? Are you happy with this? Okay? We have this, and we have a super chat coming in from Code DeResto. $5 super chat saying, don't worry, Edward Rogers has a deal with Silver. We're getting the first pick next year. And Code DeResto, I appreciate the super chat. I am praying you are correct. I am praying you are correct that we get. Apparently, the draft is supposed to be absolutely on fire next season. Hopefully, Masai Ujiri goes to the Lakers. And Masai Ujiri goes to the Lakers, and in reward, the Toronto Raptors get the number 1 overall pick in next year's NBA draft. Okay? That's what I'm saying. Now, the majority of people, from what I'm gathering out here in the chat, are saying, okay, the Toronto Raptors, it's a bad move to fire Masai Ujiri. That's what people are saying out here in the chat. Okay? But Bobby Webster, it's a split decision. It's a split decision in terms of how people are feeling in regards to Bobby Webster. So, happy for Bobby, but yeah, that's kind of where a lot of people are at. That's kind of where people are at. Why is this man... Who owns the team? Doesn't Drake have a say in this? Drake does not have a say in this. What's going on? The fantasy basketball chat. What's happening? The Raptors Digest Fantasy League. Whatever's going on. Okay. There's a lot of stuff happening here now at this point. There's a lot of stuff happening. Holy smokes. Okay. So, Bobby Webster is going to be the GM of the Toronto Raptors. Everyone is still in place. Okay? Everyone is still in place. We have a presser coming from Keith Pelley later today in terms of everything that's going on with this team. It's confirmed by Brett Siegel. It's confirmed by a lot of people. That is shocking. That is absolutely shocking. So the question is now, all right, I'm just scanning Twitter to see if we catch any breaking news. How much does Rogers' stock drop by now at this point? How much does Rogers' stock drop at this point? Canadians are not going to be going with Rogers here now. But we have Bobby Webster. So the true question is, okay, where do the Raptors go from here? Because it's not going to be Giannis with Ujiri out. Okay? Even if we have an opportunity soon. I don't know if we go to the team that snaked Masai Ujiri. Keith Pelley is the president of basketball and hockey operations. Like, Keith Pelley is going to be out there making moves, making this, making that. That's not going to be good for this Toronto Raptors team. It's not going to be good for this organization. So where do we go? Objectively, I'm hoping the Toronto Raptors don't do it. This isn't big news, okay? This isn't big news. I hope the Raptors don't do anything stupid. And Rio McLovin is saying this pretty good, okay? He's saying this pretty good. What happened to Big Fish? I think the Big Fish was a product of Masai Ujiri trying to save his job. I think the Big Fish was Masai Ujiri trying to save his job. And we could have had a disaster class trade. That's what this screams to me. If ownership is going to start meddling in things, which apparently I think Keith Pelley, again, people are going to be trashing on this decision, trashing on all this stuff. As long as Edward Rogers doesn't get involved in the basketball decisions, Keith Pelley doesn't get involved in the basketball decisions, it's Bobby Webster making these moves. I think we'll be fine. I don't think we're going back to the Brian Colangelo era and doing all this stuff. Okay? I don't think that's what's going to happen for the future of this Raptors organization. I don't think that's what's going to go down. But the one concern I have about this is, and this is what we should be concerned about, because I know people are split, and we'll really get to see. Okay? We'll get to see what Masai Ujiri is able to do. We'll get to see what Bobby Webster's able to do. It's tough to judge Bobby Webster now, just being on his own. It's tough to really judge Bobby Webster because he's been there with Masai. But by all accounts, he's a great negotiator. He's one of the best up-and-coming executives out there in the NBA. And as he should. He's the understudy to Masai Ujiri. The one area where this gets messy is Bobby Webster does not have the same cachet Masai Ujiri did with ownership. Being the president of basketball operations, VP, all that stuff, having a tight relationship with Larry Tannenbaum, okay? Masai Ujiri had the ability to do what he wants. And even if Edward Rogers were to throw in some stupid plan, like, what's it called? Like the owner of the Knicks. My brain is blanking. James Dolan would do. Ujiri could go to Tannenbaum and have some say out there in the board. With Rogers getting more power over the last year, Masai Ujiri, of course, being a more established executive with the cachet of winning a championship and the tight relationship with Larry Tannenbaum, Masai could push back. And even if Bobby Webster is really smart, even if he knows what moves should be made for this Toronto Raptors team, even if that's the case, it's going to be tough to come out and make sure this team, is fighting back against that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. About time saying hire Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley couldn't name anyone. NBA. There are a lot of teams that are going to be interested in acquiring Masai. Some people are saying Atlanta. Atlanta is a new GM right now. And frankly, the Atlanta Hawks, over the past year, have absolutely cooked in reconstructing their roster. So I'd be surprised if they made such a big swing, even though Masai Ujiri is great. Shocking turn of events here this morning. And I guess all of our expectations, all the news, everything that's been coming out, it's changing. Bobby Webster's the GM. David Mackin, that's true. That's a good point. That's what I'm saying. It's tough to judge how good Bobby Webster here is right now because they've been a unit. Right? Bobby Webster, he led the draft efforts. People were assuming Masai Ujiri led the draft efforts. Now, a sign of not drafting Kamau Watch could have given some updates. This is some news as well, and Crazy in 20 saying this, but I've heard this before as well. But an executive from another team recently said that Ujiri, who built a championship team in Toronto, has higher aspirations than running a team, instead is focused on charity and political stuff. So, that's that. Okay. Who knows? Maybe the reports are going to come out and Nico Harrison ends up being a Toronto Raptors executive. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Absolutely shocking. But I appreciate all the 670 people in here. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, folks. If you're one of the 676 people and haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, we're on that push for 40,000 subscribers. So, we'll be covering it all. We want to be the first in all the news and getting that stuff going. But Keith Pele is speaking at 1 Eastern, so 2:30 my time. So we'll be reacting to that, without a doubt. We'll be seeing what updates, what changes have come out there at this point. But it's about to be a really, really shocking stretch of time for this Raptors team. And maybe Masai was holding back the big fish swing, because this news, these reports really came out essentially like the past few weeks. The Toronto Raptors trying to be in that push, trying to be in that mix for, these big swings and stuff. It seems like Bobby Webster's been running the show the past few weeks. So all these KD rumors, all these KD reports, all of that may have been Bobby Webster. He do not exist anymore. Stay here all day. I'll be around. We'll be spamming. I pushed back. I had like 4 meetings today. I was cooking up some vids on our two-way prospects. Because we got like another DPOY out there as a two-way contract. Should have got Zazarki. Nah. I really like who we got in Elijah Martin. I think he was a really, really nice acquisition. Baffling. Absolutely baffling by the Toronto Raptors. Absolutely baffling. Decision, move. Let's see. Is there any new breaking news? Okay? A lot of people are fired up here right now, as they should be. Okay? So, Keith Pelley speaking out. And some updates. We didn't draft Ryan Nembhard. He's gone to the Dallas Mavericks. Nico Harrison getting some praise from Shams. Just an absolutely shocking turn of events. Where do you think the Raptors go from here? Chat, do you think trades happen? Do you think we make a big free agent signing? What do we think? What do we think out here for this team? What are we thinking is going on here with this squad? Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane move. Yeah, Bobby got the job. Bobby's extended. Okay? Bobby is extended. Business as usual. We'll see. We'll see how things play out. I think we need talent, OVO Chapin. I think we need talent. Trades incoming. We'll see how it all plays out. I'll be breaking it all down here in Raptors Digest. Again, you're part of the 600 people here. Hit that subscribe button. It means the world to me. I'm plugging some stuff. You've been tuning into the videos. If you've been tuning into the videos of late, we're cranking up the Twitter a ton, so follow us over there. Spotify, you listen to Raptors Digest on the go. Check us out on Spotify. You can listen to all of our videos out there on that, and as well as the videos go up on Spotify as well. So you can check all that. But the Raptors will be fine. Bobby Webster can do the job. But I appreciate everyone. It's been an absolutely hectic week in Toronto Raptors land. My voice is gone. My throat is gone. But that's not going to stop. And I had a video drop right before the stream. I wanted to go live. I wanted to get a video out as well. Check out that video after this one. 600 people in here. Check out that video. Leave a comment on that video if you're from the stream. If you're an OG here. If you're one of the streaming crew, leave a comment on that video. All right? Give that video a watch. Give it a breakdown. Leave a comment. I'll reply to them all. And we'll know. If you're from the stream, leave a comment on that video. All right? Check that out because that's up there right now. I'll probably be live again tonight. I might try to work some call-ins in. We got a lot of stuff planned. But check out the video that is up there on the channel there right now. And essentially, leave a comment there. Lots of videos coming out this afternoon. Probably we'll see another stream tonight, tomorrow. Danny, what executive you see for this job? And Bobby Webster. Bobby Webster's going to be running this team, and Dan Tolson's going to have an elevator role. That's what's happening with the squad. But check out that video. Leave a comment. And I'll make sure to like all that. But I'm baffled. Anyways, you guys are the best. I'm signing now. Cheers.
Raptors Digest percussion ignites. From the north, we bring the might. Clawing day, full of pride. Tune in now, join the ride.
Subscribe to the Raptors Digest. It's good for you.